On the profile interview segment this week, I will be speaking with Lagos APC governorship candidate Babajide Sanwo-Olu. He will be shedding light on his plans for workers and business owners in Lagos State. Take a listen. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Sharon. It's an honor to be on your program as well.
You are the Lagos APC governorship candidate for 2019, and there's a lot of things you've said on air, especially when it comes to what you want to do for Lagosians if elected to office. Can you tell us what are your plans for the Nigerian workers or Lagosians if you're elected into office?
Well, thank you. When you talk Lagosian workers, as in the civil servants and the public officers in Lagos, or Lagosians in general? Both, okay. Well, the second one is a mouthful. Is really to create an environment where everybody thrive and do very well, generally. Try and give opportunity, especially to the private sector, who really are the engines of growth. Bring about policies that they can flourish in the lines of business they choose. They can have opportunity and access to all of the interactions they need to have with government, and they can, by extension, become creators and enablers for employment generation, right? So typically we believe that 85% of the GDP is really controlled by the private sector. So we need to ensure that our programs, on transportation, on health, on traffic management, making Lagos 21st century power, security, everything evolves around everybody, more so the private sector. But coming home to a civil servant and the public sector, right, which is an environment in which I've also worked with all sense of humility too, is to sort of like engage ourselves and tell ourselves both the home truth, as in we need to raise the standards. We need to raise the standards of our service delivery, because that's why it's called a public service, of our standard delivery, so that if we do well, right, people by extension will have a repeat performance with us. And so when we also do well, then we also can remunerate ourselves well. We can have a better welfare package. We can have a lot better conducive work environment. And we can have all the career growth and plan, and capacity development that will ensure that in truth, you have a professional career and it's something that you'll be proud of. Also to ensure that when you also finish work, that your pensions are guaranteed. All of that are part of the things that I will do for both Lagosians in general and the civil servant, public officers in particular.
Talking about pensions, after the general elections in 2007, you were appointed Commissioner for Establishment, Training and Pensions.
Yes, I was.
I know that you had giant stride in that when you held that portfolio. Would you want to remind Lagosians of your achievements?
Well, it was an humble, position, fully well when you know you have responsibility to oversee over 130,000 public officers, and then we were the first at that time even to have launched the contributory pension scheme, and we launched LASPEC, which was the first contributory pension scheme in the country, even before the federal government. And so what we did, or what that is about, is to ensure that, post, retirement, they have something that they know is theirs, and they can begin to see the growth plan, under the contributory pension scheme. And so we're very delighted that we started that, and it's going very well. But typically, what you see with that ministry before was, it used to be christened as a dead zone, as in a place where nothing happens. But we thank God that within the first 2 years, not only were we able to triple and quadruple the budget that we needed to run on it, we changed the entire face of capacity development, of interactions with the entire public service, using all of the components of the Joint Negotiation Council, the unions, and also even ensuring that people that were on our pay-as-you-go pension, they were collecting their pensions timely, as in when we pay our normal salaries. And so everybody had, some sort of like a new time, in civil service at that time. But much more important was that there was a career path, there was a growth plan, there was a developmental plan that we put in place, And finally, I think we also recreated what we call Office of Transformation at that time, which is also meant to bring about new innovations in governance, one-stop shop, what our offices should look like, when you come in, how courtesies can be extended and all of it. So these are some of the very humble things that we did way back then in 2007 to 2011.
I'll be asking you a two-in-one question. How would you describe a government that refused to pay pensioners their pension as at when due? And I would also like to know your position on the struggle towards achieving a new national minimum wage. Are you going to pay if the president assents to it? And are you going to pay more perhaps?
Well, I mean, so let me start with the second question, because a lot of people want to hear that. Well, I mean, with all sense of responsibility and humbly so, in 2011, when the current minimum wage was signed up, I was in the committee with the federal government, and I dare say that Lagos State was the first to implement, under my watch, the first to implement the minimum wage at that time, which is the 18,000 minimum wage. We're the very first, even ahead of the federal government, when they had even accented to it. So that goes to show that if I, as a commissioner, can push the government at the day then for them to pay it, it stands to reason that as a chief executive, as a governor of the state, right, and they bring about, you know, improvement in the salary welfare of my staff, I can assure you that it's something that we will deal with dispatch. It's something that we would love to pay, because, you know, to whom much is given, much is also expected. We will make sure that we'll raise the bar in terms of service and quality of service, but we'll ensure that, I mean, we'll also pay them, because, I mean, inflation over those periods too, you know, has been on the upward side. So in truth, they certainly deserve the minimum wage. And like I've said, even on the campaign trail, if we bake the cake bigger, there's nothing stopping us from ensuring that we even pay slightly above the minimum wage, because we want wages that will be proper take home, not drop you at the bus stop, that will take you home. So it has to be something that we'll consider so very positively. And to go back to your first question, which is how would I, you know, rank, you know, it's always a very difficult thing, you know, because I don't know what, you know, what are the issues, or what are the complaints, you know, that will be sitting, you know, as a governor or a head of agency at that time. But I say, if for whatever reason somebody has served you for those number of years, right, I think it's just human that you pay them, you know, pensions, you know, that is due. But I would say that Nigeria as a country, we've sort of like delayed that. And so what I know is that there's been huge pension liabilities over those periods. So, I mean, if you hadn't planned well, then it becomes, you know, like a big challenge for all of them, cash-wise, to be able to deal with. But it still doesn't take away the fact that people that have served you for 30, 35 years, you probably shouldn't just throw them into the rain, you know, and get them cold. You should look for what, you know, or how you need to pay them.
The social welfare of Lagosians, I know, is one of top priority in your manifesto. My concern is, I am aware that you are the pioneer or the initiator when it comes to the lag-bus system. Looking at the standard of living in Lagos right now or in the country, I'm concerned probably you would increase the number of access or probably affordability of the lag-bus system.
Well, I mean, it's not just going to be lag-bus. We're looking at, you know, what we call an integrated mass transit system. This is a huge city, and a whole lot of people need to move from one area to another. They need to come in on a daily basis for work, for business, for whatever it is. So what we're trying to do is to have both the rail, the waterways, and of course the lag-bus which is a road transportation system. It's only when we have the three of them, you know, the three-prong working well, that you can see an integrated transportation system. And what that will do, especially if you're able to have a payment solution in which with your card, you can hop in and hop out. You can use any of them with your card. It will make movement a lot easier. It will even make issues around reduction in the cost, because what you will see is there will be a lot of transfer pricing. Yeah, and it will be easier for you to, you know, manage and effectively do well, right? So it's not unlikely that if we get it right and it's working, we can actually see a reduction in the total cost if a lot more people believe in it, and you're not having one person per car, you know, on the road that is already congested, right? So let everybody, you know, it's like park and ride. Let us be hop in and hop out, you know, and that's the plan that we have for Lagos. Do
you see this particular system or dream that you have actually creating more employment for an average Lagosian?
No, it goes without saying. It goes without. Once, for example, the rail system starts, is huge number of people, you know, from conductors to engineers to traffic design to traffic signal officers to a whole lot of people that, you know, those days when we were growing up, I'm not sure, Sharon, you were up then. You know, Nigerian Railway used to be the highest, you know, employer of labor, Nigerian Railway Service. So you can imagine the number of people they used to employ. So it's the same thing. Once you bring back the rail, they would pick a whole lot of people off the rail, off the road. You know, same with the waterways. If you have ferries moving up and down, it will create from the various jetties to the various terminals to people working, you know, to people that would need to repair and all of the things. You know, it stands to reason that jobs will be created, opportunities will be abound, and then there will be better quality of life for all of us.
As a politician, what's your view on local government autonomy?
Well, I mean, that's a very tricky question, you know, because, you know, I always say it, you know, to eat an egg, you certainly must, you know, to eat an omelette, you must break the egg. You know, at some point, you know, in government, what I think has happened is we need to scale up the capacity in the local government first. Scaling up the capacity means that what are the quality of the staffing up onto the senior level. They don't get to the senior level like you have in a regular civil service. So probably one of the things we need to raise the bar to ensure that they get to a level in which they can begin to take full ownership, you know, of what is required. But I also, on the other part, believe that, you know, politics is local. So with the local government, it brings governance closer to people. So it's a double-pronged thing. You know, I'm not against it. I'm actually for it. But it's something that we need to reform completely, right? You know, it's like you give somebody a ram, you must give it with a rope, right? But we need to do the very tough ones for, you know, scale up the capacity, scale up the skills, let them understand the processes, the procedure that is required, you know, and they certainly should be able to walk and run, you know, on their own.
Finally, my concern again as an individual or as a journalist is industrialization. We know that no society thrives without industrialization. Lagos is an urban city and we have lots of companies, but we also have hard-working youth who are ready to actually move to the next level in terms of probably promoting their business.
Yeah.
So is there an enabling environment for them? Would there be an enabling environment for them if you're elected into office? Is there any vision you have in encouraging those young minds?
Sharon, it goes without, I mean, any iota of doubt. Like I did say in my opening statement, I understand and I appreciate that the private sector runs about 80–85% of the GDP. So we need to ensure that we keep them in business. We keep all of the major, you know, industrial places, we keep them working. And by extension, they also need to bring about new processes, you know, new lines, new designs that they need to be able to compete and compete very well, you know, globally, right? And so for a big city like us, we know we need, I mean, almost 30% of all of the manufacturing concern in the country, right, have one inroad or the other in Lagos. So we need to continue to do that and do it very well. But like you've also said on the flip side, everywhere we're in globally too, is entrepreneurship. It's ensuring that, you know, the small, medium enterprises are the way to go, right? Not everybody can employ 5,000, 10,000. But I tell you, the 2 people, the 5 people, the 10 people, right, the corner shops, if you give them also the right enabling environment, they're meant to take people off the street. And so part of the things we'll be doing is to see how we support all of the youth, all of the very young graduates who have innovative ideas, who want to really do things for themselves, who are not waiting for government to come and, you know, get them out of it. Once they leave school, be very creative, be very innovative, and see what are the things you can do. So our role will be to create support for them. If it is seed capital, if it is training they will require, if it is mentoring they will require, so that they can go and flourish and do all of the things they do.
Talking about tax, is there any way that probably a government can actually assist the youth? Because I know taxation is one issue that many people face when it comes to industrialization.
No, I'm not sure there will be issues or problems around tax, right? You know, tax is always a thing of the law, right? And I'm always very careful, because I'm not a lawyer, to begin to talk, you know, it's always very easy for people to say, I'm going to reduce, I'm going to, no. Let's look at it. You know, and it's also one of the major sources of revenue for government. But let's put that aside and see the opportunity. This is a 20 million plus population. So if you get it right, you can be rest assured that whatever it is you lay your hand in, there's a market out there for you. It's just for you to be focused. It's for you to know what exactly you want to do. And for us, is to create that enabling environment for you. If you're in a startup tech companies, how well are we building tech hubs for people so that they don't need to have all of the implements before they can do their business? It's going to be a plug and play. Provide for them Wi-Fi, provide for them, services, shared office spaces, and they can do things for themselves. If it is the corner shop you need, talk to our employment trust fund, trust fund that we currently have. Let's see how we can increase the access to the fund in terms of the budget size and in terms of the condition precedent, for you to be available to you. So once we can marry all of that, so we can get a lot more people benefiting from the employment trust fund, right? And the moment we do that, it's just to test them, monitor them, even do a bit of, conditional cash transfer to some people, and take people out of poverty. Once you begin to do that, one person employs 1 or 2 people, 5% employs 2 or 3 other people, and you begin to see jobs being recreated, right? And we face all of the other things we need to do in education, in health, in public, transportation, in environment, in slow bomb grid, in waste management, in power, so that we have, a total win-win situation and begin to take Lagos to greater heights.
It was an interesting conversation I had with you, and I wish you success.
Thank you so very much, Sharon. I certainly do need the success part of it as well.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember, labor creates wealth.